Welcome to the Deep Dive. What we're covering today is, well, it's not just breaking news. This is a fundamental and violent shift in the political gravity of the entire Western Hemisphere.
It really is.
Our sources have just detailed the stunning execution and the immediate chaotic fight-out of a massive military strike. It was a designated Operation Absolute Resolve, carried out on January 3rd, 2026.
And that date is now, it's cemented in history, not just because the primary objective, the capture of Nicolás Maduro, was achieved,
Right.
but because the very moment that tactical mission succeeded, the entire political terrain just fractured. What we're seeing now is a full-blown constitutional crisis.
Pitting the former Vice President, Delcy Rodríguez, against the internationally recognized election winner, Edmundo González Urrutia.
Exactly. A total power vacuum.
So our goal today is to synthesize what we know, the tactical playbook, the legal rationale that gave cover for this, and the immediate political consequences. We have to start with the military action itself, the sheer speed and scope. It's where our sources begin.
Breathtaking is the right word. This was not a small team going over a border, no. Operation Absolute Resolve was a truly staggering show of force.
Oh, staggering.
The sources confirm a coordinated strike that involved over 150 aircraft.
150.
And get this, launch points from 20 different bases across the Western Hemisphere. That level of logistical coordination, that scale, it's almost unheard of for a targeted extraction like this.
And it tells you something about the perceived necessity of just overwhelming force.
It does, and the secrecy.
So when you're moving that many assets, stealth just seems impossible, unless you have a truly ingenious plan to evade radar.
And they did.
The sources detail this maneuver that just sounds unbelievable. It was executed by the extraction force, mostly units like Delta Force and the 160th SR. What was the core challenge they had to beat?
The challenge was the coastal radar coverage, which is, very robust. The innovation here was all in the insertion technique.
Oh.
The 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, they're called the Night Stalkers, they specialize in exactly this kind of high-risk, low-altitude flying. The sources confirm they committed to what they called the 100-foot flight.
100 feet? That's barely skimming the waves of the Caribbean.
Exactly. They flew into Venezuelan airspace at just 100 feet above the water. They were using the sea clutter to basically disappear from any radar screen.
To think about the precision that requires.
Oh, it's incredible. These are heavily loaded helicopters flying at high speed, inches from disaster, and coordinating that whole formation of over 150 aircraft at the same time. The execution was, by all accounts, flawless.
So once they achieve that stealth, the operation becomes about speed,
Yeah.
about the breach itself. The target was Maduro's fortress-like residence in Caracas.
A very hardened target.
The sources confirm the breach happened at about 2:30 a.m. local time. But there's this one detail. It's a detail that gives you a real window into the level of resistance they were anticipating. It's the kind of thing that turns a military op-in into, well, something you'd see in a movie.
You're referring to the blowtorches.
The massive blowtorches. But President Trump himself actually confirmed this detail later. U.S. troops were equipped with massive blowtorches. Why?
Well, they were intended to cut through the heavily reinforced steel of his safe room.
So they fully expected him to get inside and lock it down.
They planned for it, absolutely. They knew the compound was hardened. That safe room was the last layer of defense, a final-ditch effort to stall long enough for loyalist forces to react. The blowtorches were a kind of tactical insurance policy, a promise to breach that final barrier no matter what.
And crucially, they didn't need them.
They did not. The speed of the raid was everything. Nicolás Maduro and the First Lady, Celia Flores, were apprehended so quickly, specifically before they could seal themselves inside that sanctuary.
A delay of just seconds could have changed everything.
It could have triggered a prolonged standoff, a siege. Instead, the mission moved right to the next phase. Extraction.
What were the logistics of that handoff?
It was rigid, pre-planned. They were extracted to a waiting U.S. naval asset, the USS Iwo Jima, which was positioned just offshore.
And from there?
Immediately flown to New York. This rapid transfer was essential, not just for security, but because the moment they left Venezuelan airspace, the entire justification shifted. It went from a kinetic military operation to a legal enforcement action.
That's the perfect transition, because an operation this big needs a very concrete legal foundation, if only for a U.S. domestic audience.
Of course.
The administration framed this not as invasion, but as a policing action. What was the specific legal instrument that let them do that?
The instrument was an unsealed indictment from the Southern District of New York, the SDNY.
Which, for our listeners, is a key federal jurisdiction for these kinds of high-profile cases.
Exactly. Transnational crime, narco-terrorism. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi unsealed the charges the moment they arrived. That move was the legal shield for the entire operation.
And the sources are clear. These are severe, long-standing charges. This wasn't something manufactured for the occasion.
Oh, absolutely not. The charges against Maduro were serious felonies. Narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, and illegal possession of machine guns.
So if you connect the dots...
If you connect the dots, these charges provide the official justification. The argument is simple. These individuals were under indictment in the U.S., and the operation was just the enforcement of that legal writ.
It's a powerful framing, at least domestically. You're enforcing justice, not waging war.
Mm-hmm.
But does that distinction really hold up internationally?
And that is the critical vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
While the U.S. can claim they were arresting a long-indicted criminal, the fact is they used 150 aircraft and special forces to extract a sitting head of state.
However illegitimate they considered him.
Precisely. So internationally, especially among nations that are very sensitive to sovereignty, this legal maneuver is highly, highly contentious. The sources suggest this legal clarity really only exists in Washington, not so much at the UN Security Council.
That tension, the clarity of the U.S. case versus the murky international view, it leads us right to the instability on the ground.
Yes.
The tactical operation solved one problem, the strongman, but it instantly created a vacuum. This is where the story shifts from military precision to just messy, real-world political chaos.
And chaos is the word for it. The military structure that was loyal to the old regime is now completely fractured. We have two competing claims to power, and neither one has control.
Let's look at the remnants of the regime first. Vice President Delcy Rodríguez. Constitutionally, she's the immediate heir. She's declared herself the legitimate acting president. What's her status?
Well, her situation tells you how successful the U.S. mission was. She's operating from an undisclosed location.
So she can't even govern from the palace.
Exactly. That shows you the disruption to the command structure. Her primary function right now is just political messaging. She's framing the entire event very pointedly as a kidnapping.
Why that specific word, kidnapping?
It's for international effect. It's an attempt to strip the U.S. action of any legal legitimacy. It wasn't an arrest, it was a violation of sovereignty. She's trying to rally support from countries that traditionally oppose U.S. military power.
Okay, so that's one side. And standing in direct opposition is the Democratic alternative, Edmundo González Urrutia. He's the recognized election winner, currently in exile in Spain. He's walking an incredibly difficult tightrope here.
A very, very fine line.
How has he responded?
His response is really a masterclass in cautious politics. On one hand, he called the operation a necessary step.
Which is critical.
It is. He acknowledges that removing the strongman was a prerequisite for any kind of democratic recovery. So he validates the U.S. action to a degree.
But, and this is a big but, the sources show he immediately pivoted. He started demanding checks on U.S. involvement.
Exactly. The relief is instantly coupled with this profound fear of trading one authoritarian for a foreign occupation. His crucial demand was for a quick and clear return to constitutional order. He's worried about an indefinite U.S. occupation.
He can't be seen as a puppet.
He absolutely cannot. He has to establish his own democratic authority, and fast.
So we have the old regime calling it a kidnapping, the Democratic winner cautiously supporting it but demanding limits.
Yeah.
What is the U.S. administration's stated goal here?
Their stated goal is to oversee a transitional period. Notice they avoid the word occupation. But the sources highlight the single most important strategic interest in all their statements.
What's that?
The stabilization of the region's oil infrastructure.
And that one detail, it changes the entire geopolitical analysis, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It links the chaos directly to U.S. economic interests. When the U.S. prioritizes the resource sector, it sends a very clear signal.
A signal that success will be measured less by democracy and more by merit.
And more by the continuous flow of oil exports. It raises a huge geopolitical risk. Does the U.S. define stability as democratic rule, or just as a non-hostile government that can guarantee energy output?
That is the core conflict now. Because if the U.S. prioritizes oil, they might be tempted to favor a quick, strong-handed government over the slow, messy process of real democratic restoration.
And that tension is already being felt. Everyone is watching to see if this transitional government ends up favoring political legitimacy or resource stability.
So as we look across all the sources, what stands out is this duality. The tactical problem was solved with brilliant, just stunning precision. That 100-foot flight, the blowtorches, those details will be remembered.
And the legal rationale was deployed instantly. It provided a clear domestic justification. But that clarity just evaporated the second the extraction was complete.
Absolutely. We went from kinetic action to this deeply uncertain political future. A stark constitutional crisis with Rodríguez underground and González Urrutia warning about U.S. overreach.
The military problem is solved. The legal cover is in place. But the power vacuum is wide open.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener, trying to process this historic moment?
I think you should hold on to three key takeaways. First, the stunning tactical success of Operation Absolute Resolve, defined by that incredible 100-foot flight and the preparedness shown by those blowtorches. Second, the legal framework. The unsealed narco-terrorism indictment that defined this as a policing action.
And third, the deeply uncertain political vacuum that pits Rodríguez's international claims against the constitutional demands of González Urrutia.
The sources show the tactical speed, but that political vacuum remains. So here's the thought I want to leave you with. The U.S. focus is specifically on stabilizing oil infrastructure. What does that resource-driven objective imply about the actual length and nature of this promised transitional period? And how will that specific goal influence whether the new government leans toward the constitutional demands of the opposition or, toward a leader who can simply guarantee stable, uninterrupted energy operations? That tension between resource stability and the democratic mandate is the real story to watch moving forward.